Goodbye, sunshine. What's up, agents? Before I actually get into the build, I want to tell you why I thought of this build. 2 videos ago, you guys may have seen that I got over 1 million per tick burn from my status effect build. Well, I want to show you this iteration of the burn right now and what we're doing, but here's what I thought. How do I get my damage even higher? Well, I'm going to need some help. So I constructed this build to maximize my damage. But what I'm looking at next for this build is I'm looking to get in a group. I need to get some Overwatch going, some future initiative ground control going. I want to try to squeeze in empathic resolve and get somebody else to bust the overcharge for me along with the Artificer hive. It'll, well, trust me, it's going to do a lot of damage. And after, well, let's look at this. So as you guys can see, with an overcharge, I'm easily breaking the million mark at this point. But with all these extra damage bonuses applied, I'm hoping to break 1.2, 1.3 million per tick. So hopefully we can get it done with this build right here. Oh, what's up, agents? Didn't see you there. How y'all doing? You guys ever wanted to get your legendary cash done, your weekly, and no matter how much you try, you go matchmaking, try to find a group, and you can't get through it? I got a build that may help you get there. This build is extremely powerful in a group and absolutely something you should never try running solo. I mean, give it a shot. Comment below, let me know how it works out for you. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the build. So we're going to be running with the Artificer hive, so we have to choose Technician. But in addition to getting the Artificer, we get EMP grenades. We get Amp, which allows us to run 1 armor. You could have run, of course, run 1 weapon core, but you're going to want to run armor. And the reason why is the main point of this build is to provide bonus armor to the entire team. The bonus armor you apply is based upon your maximum armor. Thus, using that extra slot to add armor adds to the amount of armor to the team that they will get. So I highly recommend that if you are able to re-roll one of the skill tiers, re-roll it into armor. The other main reason I use this is Faraday field. This means I do not get shocked or disrupted. This will, as long as I'm within the 5 meters of my Faraday field, I will not get shocked by the shock traps, which does happen. Your teammates, if they are too close to a shock trap, when it goes off and shocks an enemy, they will get shocked as well. So it would behoove your teammates also to stay within the Faraday field if they are getting into close quarter combat. One of the other things I do is, since I am mostly using the Everlasting Gaze for the perpetuation to shock people longer, the Everlasting Gaze takes the Link Laser Pointer. This means as I aim, I pulse targets as well, so my teammates can keep track of the targets, as well as anybody who is using Spotter will not have to pulse targets themselves and can take advantage of the bonus damage that way. And if you're running in a purpose-built group with your buddies, then you guys can build off the fact that the guy running this build can be pulsing targets for everybody else, and it leaves them open to run other skills. All right, agents, now we'll go over the gear set and the brand sets we're going to be using. There's basically 2 iterations of this build that I'm using, but it's just switching the chest piece out. There are all sorts of different combinations you can use, but I've done pretty extensive testing, and like always, I'm going to keep testing, and I may come back and say, hey, you know what, I found something better, but as of right now, these are the 2 best variations, and it's just switching out the chest piece. So let's get into that. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about the gear set, and we're going to be running Future Initiative. The 3-piece, of course, is beneficial, the 15% skill haste and the plus 30% skill duration. The big one is the 4-piece ground control, increases you and your allies' total weapon and skill damage by 15% when at full armor. The ground control is per each individual. So as long as each of your teammates individually are at full armor, they will get that 15% bonus damage. And so the idea behind this build, as we alluded to, is that we're going to be trying to proc bonus armor as much as possible, because if our teammates are taking damage from the bonus armor and it's not dipping into their full health, that means even though they're taking damage, they still maintain that full armor ground control damage bonus. And you'll see in the gameplay, as I take damage, much of the time I will maintain that bonus in the buff bar, simply because they are depleting from my bonus armor, not my actual armor. This also alleviates people from having to run this. One of my most powerful builds, arguably the most powerful build I have, the AFK Astrone, is centered around a 4-piece Future Initiative. However, I would actually do more damage with my full AFK version of the build using the 1 Wyvern, 2 Hana-Yu, 3-piece Empress International, right? And then having somebody else give me the 15% bonus damage. We're talking well over 300,000 damage per bullet with the turret at that point. So, and that's before we even throw in the Artificer Hive. So what I need to do is try to find somebody to group up with so I can run that particular AFK Astrone build with somebody running this build and see what numbers I can hit when I overcharge, get my capacitor fully procced up and all that. I wonder if I could hit over 400,000 damage per bullet with the turret. But that's another video if I get lucky and I group up with some guys that can help me do that. So if anybody's on PlayStation, you want to help me with that, let me know. Anyway, let's move on. All right, guys, ideally my backpack would be GL or Wyvern with status effects, skill damage, and galvanized. So I don't have anywhere near the perfect backpack to show you the other ones I'm working with. We got this GL right here that has skill haste, but you guys notice I actually have the status effect on there, right? So that gives me 10% status effect, 10% skill damage, that combination of Wyvern. So I lose out on damage if I use this Golem. But that would give me 1% armor regen. So there's an argument for that, but that doesn't help the build. I have this Golem right here. This one has the 8% status effect. So this gives me 18.8% status effects and the Galvanize, and it does give me the armor. However, I would only be at skill tier 5 if I were to do that. So, again, this could be better if it had the skill damage and status effects, but this is going to work great for what we're doing. And we absolutely want to make sure that we're running the Galvanize, applying a blind and snare, confuse, or shock to an enemy grants 40% of your armor as bonus armor to allies within 20 meters of that enemy for 10 seconds. And that's 20 meters radius, guys. So any enemy that I shock, anybody within that range will get 40% of my armor. One thing to note with Galvanized is it cannot be reapplied within that 10 seconds. So that bonus armor you have, as it goes down, you have to wait till after that 10-second duration for another enemy to be shocked and then get the next round of armor. However, it does work in conjunction and stacks with things like Tartigrade, Vanguard, Protector, and other myriad methods of gaining bonus armor. At this point, I have not found a cap. It seems that all the bonus armor methods in the game stack on top of each other. So there's the possibilities of getting just insane about a bonus armor. That's another video to possibly get into at some point if I could get a team together to properly work on that. As far as the brand sets, what you guys want to do is choose either a Golem or a Wyvern. Wyvern will give you plus 10 skill damage. Golem will give you plus 10% status effects. The status effect is more important, but if we are going to be running two high-end pieces, you might as well go with the Wyvern and the Golem. That will yield the most damage. The shock does do damage over time. Oftentimes it doesn't show you those numbers, but on the end screen you will definitely see it as skill damage. And sometimes you will actually see the blue shock damage numbers pop up. Alright, on our golden chest piece, you guys notice that we have the native 170,000 armor, which keeps us at 913k. The perfect piece for me would be status effects and skill damage. We're running skill haze mods in every slot. And the first variation of the build, we're going to be using Overwatch. After staying in cover for 10 seconds, increases you and your allies' total weapon and skill damage by 12% as long as you remain in cover or in a cover-to-cover move. This will ubiquitously buff everybody's damage. This works in conjunction with the ground control. This means we will be able to crowd control the enemies. While they are crowd controlled, our team will have bonus armor to pop out of cover and do 15 plus 12%, so 27% bonus damage as long as we are doing our job. Both of these forms of bonus damage are going to be compounded in our Artificer Hive bonus damage when it comes to the skills, but we'll get into that. Alright agents, the most effective way I've found to run this build seems to be to go with the trusty Tartigrade. And that is simply because it gives people the ability to play highly aggressive. So, what this does is, first of all, its core attribute is the armor, so that keeps us at the 913,000. We get explosive resistance, which is great and keeps us from getting knocked out of cover. We get a little bit of armor regen, which helps our own survivability. But the main reason we are using this is for the ablative nanoplating. I apologize if I pronounce that wrong. Ablative, I like that. Ablative nanoplating. Whenever you or your ally's armor breaks, they gain 80% of your armor as bonus armor for 10 seconds. Cooldown per ally is 45 seconds. Killing an enemy with your specialization weapon removes this cooldown for all allies. The big thing about this, right, is this allows our team to effectively play that much more aggressively. And if I'm doing my job, I am able to keep all of their skills tip-top, doing maximum damage, and everybody should be getting as many of these damage buffs as possible the majority of the time. Alright, as far as our attributes, you're going to want status effects. If at all possible, you want to have status effects and skill damage on your chest piece. You got status effects, status effect, and status effect. And then you want status effect and skill damage. There are other options you could squeeze into this if you wanted to. You could use the Vial, you could use the Imperial Dynasty. Both of those are status effects that will help this build. Note that the burn from the Imperial Dynasty will not proc the Galvanize perk. The Vial is a debuff. That will not, it does not count as a status effect in any way. That will simply do some bonus damage to the guys, and ultimately I do not feel like it's worth it. You could use the Sawyer knee pads if you want to make yourself invulnerable to explosions. That would work good with the Overwatch if you wanted to use Overwatch in combination with Sawyers, and that way you would do, I believe it's up to 30% bonus weapon damage. So that would make your Scorpio that much more potent. Those are just some other variations I think are okay, but this is the way that I recommend running the build. Just my opinion. Alright, as far as the skills, this is pretty much the way that I run it all the time. Of course, since this is a support build, we are going to be using the Artificer Hive. No ifs, ands, or buts. This is why we have to use the Technician. The Artificer sends out micro electro booster drones that expend themselves to increase allied skills efficiency and refresh their duration. Periodically releases a drone whilst holstered. This drone affects only your skills. The stats on this bad boy. So we have a refill speed of 1.8 seconds. This will be about 2 to 2.2 seconds if you decide to go with the status effect skill damage on the chest and the backpack if you go that route. However, you will do that much more damage with your skills. We have 32 charges. It has a range of 13.6 meters. It lasts forever. Its health is negligible because nothing ever shoots at this. And I'll throw this out there real quick, and you guys will see this later. So one thing that a lot of people, I believe, don't know is the Artificer Hive, if placed between you and the Juggernaut tanks that have the hives on their backpack, the Artificer Hive, at the cost of 1 charge, will suck up all that bleed damage from that hive, and it will do no damage to you. So this is hands down the most effective defense against, you guys know in Legendary, there's oftentimes where you get 3 of those tanks coming at you. All of them have their healing packs, and all 3 of them will have a hive just chugging at you. This is the #1 defense, and this is one reason why it is good to have a quick refill speed on it. Buff amount, 70%. That's a 70, and when they say that, I believe, and if anybody's done the math, let me know. I believe this just adds 70% additional skill damage. So it's not a huge amount. It's not as big as everybody thinks, because you got to remember, a lot of guys are stacking up, 100 to 180, sometimes 200% skill damage through all of their buffs. So this is a 70% on top of that. So even with diminishing returns, still 70% is a nice buff. Buff duration is 10 seconds. As long as the Artificer Hive is out, as soon as the duration is gone, the Artificer Hive, if it's within line of sight, and this is another thing, it has to be within line of sight of any of the skills or anything that you're trying to buff. It has to be able to see them. So I recommend tossing it on top of desks. Someplace that you can, of course, get it. You don't want to toss it on top of a bookshelf that you can't get to, because you'll have to blow it up and get rid of all the additional charges. But if you can, toss it on top of a desk, a bar, a car, something like that. Skill repair is 98%, and that's without any sort of other buffs that we have that will buff that efficiency. And the skill refresh, every time it sends out one of these charges, it will refresh the skills 15 seconds. This is an amazing thing that you can use to buff your team. Let's not forget about what this can do for a shield build. 98%. Imagine a Bulwark shield with, I haven't checked in a while, but I think they can get, upwards of almost 10 million damage. Excuse me, I don't know. Maybe they can do more than that now. But regardless, imagine having a Bulwark just sucking up damage, sucking up damage, sucking up damage. It's almost gone. Bam, 98% repaired. 1 charge. So within 10 seconds, unless they destroy the shield within 10 seconds, every 10 seconds, anybody running a shield will have it right back to maximum. All right, so the other thing we're running is the shock trap. And again, you can run whatever you want, but I'm going to talk about it, and then we'll discuss why this is hands down the only other skill I will use for this support build. The shock trap scatters a minefield of small devices capable of shocking targets moving within their proximity. Cooldown reduces when traps expire. I don't believe that, and it doesn't matter anyway, because our cooldown is 37 seconds, and the traps last 94 seconds. We're not leaving them out that long. We're going to blow them up well before then to put out more traps. Applies shock status on affected targets. Cooldown of 37.4 seconds. You can expect to have between 35 and 40 depending on your build. Puts out 16 traps. They have a shock radius of 4.2 meters. The shock duration is 7.2 seconds. The duration of the traps is 94. Once again, that's negligible. And for PvP, the shock effect duration is only 3.6 seconds. So let me talk about why this is the only skill to use. You guys see, watch this. I mean, they just cover everything, right? So when we combine that field with Galvanize and applying shock to an enemy grants 40% bonus armor to allies within 20 meters, right? And there you have a full field of things that shock guys. I mean, basically no matter what, you're going to be applying bonus armor all of the time. This will help in the regards of support and survivability for the team, not to mention the crowd control, the lockdown ability of the traps. There's no other skill. I'm totally down for the argument. If somebody can tell me a reason why another skill is better than the shock traps for this, I will absolutely go try it. But this hands down is the easiest way to lock down an entire area in Legendary. The only time that this fails is certain areas like Roosevelt, where the battlefield is so large that even the entire field of traps only covers a third of the area. Booyah. 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 All right, agents, let's take a look at the weapons. The weapons, there's some choices, but I think some weapons are better than others. So we'll just get straight on into it. Hands down, I think it goes without saying the number one weapon we're going to be used is going to be the Scorpio, which fires the venomous rounds. So this is, of course, an exotic shotgun. Comes with the damage to armor. Damage to armor does affect status effect damage. So this is a great, whatever type of weapon you use, even like on my Everlasting Gaze here, which we'll get into in a second, you notice I want damage to armor on it. The talent is what we're looking at. Shooting a target applies stacks of venom, which lasts for 10 seconds. Increasing stacks add more severe debuffs to the target. 1 stack adds poison, 3 stacks disorient, 6 adds shock, and 7 stacks targets takes additional 20% damage from all sources. Stacks no longer increase. That is a very large damage increase. A duration of status effects is based on percentage of pellets on applying shot. It has nothing to do with the amount of status effects we have on our gear, unfortunately. But this is a great weapon to lock targets down when we don't have our status effects up. This also, the shock will proc the Galvanize. So I use this to proc Galvanize for myself as well as teammates around me. This allows me to position myself away from where my shock traps are and still be able to provide Galvanize to everybody in the group. Now, the secondary weapon, there's 2 different weapons I choose between. The one that I think is the better one happens to be the Everlasting Gaze, and it's because Perfect Perpetuation is just too powerful of a perk. Headshots grant 50% status effect damage and duration to the next status effect you apply. And so what this is we're not so worried about the damage in this particular build, but what that means is the duration. That 7.2 second duration, we add another, 3.6 onto it, right? So we're looking at over 10% shock duration then by doing this. And since the tanks are slow and they got fairly big heads, it makes it fairly easy to lock the juggernauts down. And one of the best things is you can get the Perfect Perpetuation, lock them down, and while it's on cooldown, switch back to the Scorpio, which has the bonus damage to armor, and start laying into and providing other status effects with that. The other weapon that I would consider using would be the Grudge. The Grudge is the named CMMG submachine gun. We would use this for the Perfect Vindictive, and since we are going to be applying status effects all the time, all over the place, if we see an enemy low on health, whip this guy out. Killing an enemy with the status effect applied grants you and all allies within 20 meters 18% crit hit chance and 18% crit hit damage for 20 seconds. And even if you're running with a team of full DPS who already have that 60% crit hit chance cap, that's still going to give them 18% critical hit damage that they're basically going to get all the time, right? Because they are pushing so much crit hit chance. So even if they only take half the advantage of that, that's still a huge damage bonus for them. All right, and last, I'm running a backup boomstick. And this is because the shotgun damage makes it highly effective at taking down enemies at close range quickly. If I do take one of them down, I proc Future Perfect, which will put me into Overcharge. This also pairs very well with the Everlasting Gaze. So, if I proc the Future Perfect, I could switch over to this, get Perfect Perpetuation, fire off, and then since status effect damage, for what it's worth, you guys, status effect damage is snapshot at the moment that the initial burst hits, with the one exception of damage to armor. If you actually switch between weapons, you'll actually see your damage change if you have different damage to armor. But other than that, the actual damage is a snapshot, which means you can proc your Future Perfect, switch over, proc some Perfect Perpetuation, and get the status effect going, and then switch over to Scorpio, get a couple shots, and if you get a good 7 shot, that damage increase will go to 20%, and then that also will increase that damage for whatever reason, because that's a debuff. Again, that's not, you know, theoretically you wouldn't get any damage bonus because of the snapshot, right? But because we're talking about a debuff with actually adds after everything else, that then will increase the damage. Lastly, in case you don't have the Everlasting Gaze or the Grudge, I might as well talk about some other options. We're not going to talk about exotics because you guys should be running the Scorpio. Perfectly in Sync can be used to get you some bonus weapon damage via the Harmony or the Test Subject. If you want Test Subjects, the Assault Rifle version. If you want to do some long distance proccing of Overcharge before you even get into an engagement, you can use something like the Scalpel with Future Perfection. The downside is there's really no reason to use Future Perfection over the normal Future Perfect, because the second part of the perk, weapon kills at skill tier 6 grant overcharge for 15 seconds. That's exactly the same as the non-perfection version. So I'm hoping at some point they figure this out. Why not just make that overcharge 19 seconds instead of the 15 seconds like the normal version? That would actually give people a reason to use this, and would make this version of the overcharge better than the BTSU and better than the Acostas. Right, so that would give people to actually run a Future Perfection weapon as possibly a main weapon. I'm just saying. Now, I know that this is super stupid, super silly, but I'm just going to say it, since a lot of you guys may have a Slayer around for whatever reason, in case you run out of shotgun ammo and you want to be able to proc your stuff. And maybe your skills are on cooldown, you go with the Slayer SMG. Of course, you want the damaged armor, but Hidden Rock, headshot supply, confuse, cooldown 20 seconds. Well, the confuse will proc the Galvanize. So whatever it's worth, I know it's super funny. I just look at this thing. I mean, it's so pretty. Like, nobody ever uses it, but look, it's so pretty. All right, it's just silly. All right, moving on. Probably the last thing that I'll note that you could use would be the Darkness. If you want to use a marksman rifle from a distance, I don't know why you would want to use this over proccing an overcharge. But if you like this weapon, you wanted to use it, it has the perfectly eyeless, deal 25% weapon damage to blinded enemies. The thing is, we're not running any particular type of blind, right? So you would need to proc the second part, which is after 3 kills, applies blind to the next enemy you hit. The thing is, if you're going to be doing this, again, why wouldn't you just proc Future Perfect? And then, I mean, this build is set, so you can be in the midst of everything with the bonus armor and getting in with the Scorpio. So I'm gonna leave this in the video, but this would basically be, if this is one of the first name weapons you get, you don't have anything else that we talked about here, you could use this. But this is, I mean, at this point, I would rather just use a regular P416 with Optimist or something like that. Anyway, okay, that's it for the weapons. Alright, lastly, I'm just going to show a quick gun range video of how it works with the build. So check it out. Here's our Future Initiative is procced, right? We're going to be down here. Okay, you guys see we got the Overwatch proc now. So what we'll do is throw those out. Bam. There we go. You guys can see how long that shot lasts, right? Well, let's do this. Perpetuation, alright? And check out the shock duration now. Alright, so now, let's just switch to our boomstick, right? And we're gonna pop, proc, throw, and I should have actually thrown the Artificer out first. Watch this. Right? Alright. Alright guys, we're going for another overcharge. Let's see how this works. Let's check out the duration on this. So this is the Tartigrade on overcharge. Alright, so now we'll get to some gameplay of the two different build variations. You guys can see how effective this is. That was the dumbest shit, I don't know why.
We're good. I mean, don't stand up in the finish. Don't stand up, but... Why you don't want to take me in that car? Holy shit.
Bro, you think you're gonna fuck with me? Wait, is that Artificer Hive sucking up that... Is that what's happening?
Awesome.
Yeah, dude, the Artificer Hive's sucking it all up. Wow, how about that, dude? Holy shit. Dude, alright.
That guy.
Look at my Artificer Hive just sucking up all that dude's, Look at him. His hive doesn't do shit as long as my hive's out. Oh, that's so good to know.
Alright, we're redoing it. Holy shit.
Dude, I'm just going for broke. Wait. How did that dude... Wait, what the fuck is that, dude? Dude, okay, that's some fucking... Did you guys see that shit? Guys, you'll notice I'm up taking damage and losing my future initiative damage bonus, but the point is, since I'm using the Scorpios, I'm just trying to get a status effect on an enemy within 20 meters in order to proc the bonus armor for the rest of the team in order to make sure that they can do any bonus damage either by keeping their future initiative or if they're using Intimidate, you know, to get whatever damage bonuses they would get that way.
Dude, this dude's not being able to do a whole lot of much. It's pretty cool. Oh, I'm out of ammo. They just make this take way too... Like, the only reason why this is hard is because they just give you so many chances to die, run out of ammo and shit. Like, this is only hard if you're just, like, if it's 2 players. Even that, it's like, whatever, dudes. Oh, there it goes, starting to smoke. Finally, yeah. I'm just gonna sit here and suck it up, dude. Oh, look at that. Oh, dude. All that bonus armor and everything fucking made it, so I just said, fuck this guy.
Look at that, my Tartigrade just fucking whooping that ass. Oh, I shot the shit out of myself too. He just burnt out, dude. Look at this. Goodbye, sunshine. Over 2 billion healing, guys. Check that shit out. 4 revives. Yeah, enemies shocked. 298. I just wanted to show you guys how effective this is with the shield build. This is me and one guy running a shield, doing 2-man in legendary. And check out what this Artificer does for his shield. And then having the shock around to give him the bonus armor and make sure that nobody can flank him. Well, I'll just let the rest of the footage speak for itself. You guys can see that his shield never even came close to going down once. I mean, it's pretty much always at full health with this. Thanks for checking this out, guys. I hope you guys found out something new, learned something today, or at least found this somewhat entertaining. If so, do me a favor, smash that like button. If I haven't already earned your subscription, hopefully today will be the day. Before I forget, this amazing look right here, this is the grunge dye. So if you guys want to look like this, which I certainly hope you don't, but I guess you will be memorable to your fire team members, it is the grunge. So ugly and bright, everything's all right. Anyway, I feel like there was something else. Oh, you know, if you guys have any other variations of this you can think of, or more specifically, ways to add another variation of support, another level. What I'm really trying to do at this point, as far as this build goes, is see, is there anything else I could squeeze on top of it without taking away from what I'm already doing? So, anyway, I hope you agents are being safe out there. You all be well, and I'll see you in the Dark Zone.